Did you ever have the secret fear of being buried alive, of waking up in suffocating darkness, knowing that there was 6 feet of earth on top of you? This nearly happened here.
So guys, we're here in Shankill, the old cemetery, and we can just see the mausoleum on top of the hillside there. That's the Brownlow mausoleum, who were a very well-known, wealthy family in the area, owned lots of land here as well. We'll go up and have a look at that right now and read the inscription that's on it. So that's the big mausoleum here. A huge top on it there. And the doors look actually new looking on it. So we'll read the inscription that's overhead. So it says, "The remains of the family of the Brownlow, not ignoble from its foundations, rest here. Elizabeth of the most noble family of Abercorn, the illustrious widow of William, who died in 1737, took care to build this tomb as a monument of her affection." So that's just a bit of information there of the Brownlow mausoleum. And there's just another bit of writing here. This vault was renovated in the year 1969 or 59, I think, by the Right Honourable William George Edward, 4th Baron of Lurgan, in grateful memory of his dear aunt, the Honourable Annette Brownlow, the youngest daughter of Charles. I'll tell you a bit of story about Marjorie McCall and her grave that we'll go and visit. So the story about Marjorie McCall is, she had a fever. To presume that the time she passed away, she had the wake in the house. All the family were there, her husband. She was brought to this old cemetery here and was buried. So later on that evening, 2 grave robbers came in here. They got word. Somebody at the wake, I presume, told them she was wearing a very expensive ring on her finger. So these grave robbers came in here a couple of hours after her being buried, dug her grave up and tried to take the ring off her finger. So failing to do so, they had to cut her finger off to get the ring. And while they were cutting her finger off to take the ring away, Marjorie awoke in her coffin. Of course, the 2 grave robbers ran with the fright, ran out of the cemetery, and Marjorie awoke, came out of her grave, walked all the way back home and back to her husband's house, where she proceeded to knock on the door. The husband, hearing the knock on the door, said to his children, "If I hadn't buried your mother today," he said, "I could swear that was her knock on the door." And to his surprise, he opened the door, and his wife Marjorie was standing there with a bloody hand. They say he died on the spot with fright. He collapsed, died of shock, and he was buried in the grave that Marjorie came out of, where they thought she was dead. He was buried that evening. And so Marjorie went on to live for a number of years more in life. I think she was 53 or 4 years old of the time of her death. And she's buried here. So we'll go and visit her grave and read the inscription that's on it. So she's well known around here, the famous Marjorie McCall. They say the woman who lived once and was buried twice. So let's go, guys, and I'll show you her grave first, because I don't want to leave you waiting after telling you the story. So we'll go and visit Marjorie's final resting place, and we hope she's resting. And you know, back in them days, people would have been in a coma. Doctors didn't have the technology that we'd have today, you know, to pronounce someone dead. They would have presumed she was dead and buried her. So if those grave robbers, when you think about it, hadn't come to dig her grave looking for valuables, it wouldn't have been very nice to wake up in a coffin alive and not able to get out. So I think it's somewhere over this direction her grave is. Marjorie. So there's people cleaning here today, cleaning some graves and tending to the graves. So this is the famous grave here, Marjorie McCall. And you can just see on the inscription down here, Marjorie McCall lived once, buried twice. And you can vaguely see a name on it there. I think it's John, which will be her husband, John McCall. And they say her husband was a surgeon. He was a surgeon. And she didn't live too far from here. I think it was Church Lane she lived. So she would have walked from this cemetery back to her husband's to knock on the door after he buried her. What a shock to get. An interesting one, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below of this story. It is possible. And just behind the Brownlow mausoleum we have this wonderful looking headstone here. Stonework. Looks like a family crest. You can see some maybe lines on it there. And I do see a name on it here. Oh, is it Riley? Jane Riley, who died in December. And I don't see a year on it, but it is a beautiful headstone. Amazing. And that is, of course, the back of the Brownlow mausoleum. There's your vent at the very, very top. So there's a number of old graves here as well, guys, in the old cemetery from the 1600s. This is just one example here. John Clark, who died March 1697. And we have an Edward Clark, who died January 1705. But just down the very bottom there, you can see that face. Look at that. Amazing to see, isn't it? 1600s grave. And I believe there's 4 here altogether from the 1600s. This is another one. So here we have John Walker, who died in 1696. And there's a bit of a writing on it there. It's kind of hard to see. But that is 1696. Another one. And there's actually an old 1600s one that's joined onto a more modern looking headstone here. And we can see on this Susanna Ogle, his wife, who died in April the 18th, 1690. So I believe this is a vault here. We can see there's a chest tomb inside, and a small kind of a little hole in it there. So it is a vault, and unfortunately at the moment I can't see any inscription on it. Really nice one here, the railings around it. We have that beautiful urn on top, and this is sacred to the memory of Anne, wife of Robert Watson, who died the 1st of May 1831, aged 49 years. Also of their children who died in infancy. Likewise Isabella, his second wife, who died the 25th of May 1840, aged 43 years old. And the above named Robert himself, who died in 1848, aged 72. Beautiful grave. And of course on the side here then we have also the children of Francis and Mary Watson. So we have William, who died in 1849, aged 11 months. Jane, who died in 1854, aged 11 months. And Arthur Wesley Watson, who died October 1854, the same year, aged 2 years old. Martha Stewart died in 1870, aged 11. William died in 1875, aged 23. And then you have Francis, Robert and a Thomas underneath that. So how sad to lose all those children in the 1800s, and I'm sure they had, you know, like cholera maybe, flu, fever, all those things took people's lives at an early age, unfortunately, back then. Another elaborate one here. And I actually think the stone work on top of this actually looks like a flame. I thought it was a hand first, but I think it's a flame. Now whether that represents the Sacred Heart, you know, the flame and the Sacred Heart, I'm not sure. But it's a little tomb style on top of it there. And there's no inscription on it. Well, a beautiful resting place there and a headstone. There's a train gone by. So this is erected by Ellen Brown in memory of her father, James Brown. What a name. Just like the famous James Brown, the soul singer, who died the 29th of October 1832, and his wife Mary died in November 1832, and their family. So rest in peace to the Brown family. We have a chest tomb, design here. It kind of looks like this was done up a bit. It looks like there's modern blocks in there to keep it together, and that side, I don't know if that's the original side of that. It looks different. Maybe it is, but you can just kind of see where they've patched it up with cement just to keep it from falling apart. So they're really trying hard here to keep the place clean and tidy, and it's great to see places like this being saved for people like me and people like you who's watching these videos, that we can experience the history and the beauty that's in these places. And it's truly wonderful, really is. And that story of poor old Marjorie McCall, who was buried twice. We got to go and see her grave. But what a fright that was for her husband John, to hear a knock on the door and your wife is standing there all bloody. What would you do if your husband or wife came knocking at the door and said, "Hi honey, I'm home," and you buried her a couple of hours ago? Oh, I can't imagine what I would think. It's a good job he didn't have an affair or meet a new woman, and Marjorie came knocking on the door thinking that she was dead, and poor old John was in there with a new woman, and she comes knocking on the door. Oh guys, it's just a thought. Just a thought. But this place is beautiful, and there's not much more to see in here. We've seen a lot of the more interesting ones. This is dedicated by Moses Douglas, and to the memory of his beloved wife Elizabeth, who departed this life the 21st of October 1853, aged 58 years, and his daughter Catherine, who was only 21 when she died in 1847. Very, very young. Very, very young. There's a couple of tabletop ones there. This is to the memory of Eliza, wife to James Boyd of Lurgan, who departed this life in 1808. So guys, I think I'm going to wrap this one up, and I will catch you on the next one. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and follow me, and take you on a journey around the country to all these wonderful places. So until the next one guys, take care.